A man saves an old woman's support dog, not knowing she was a millionaire. But she changed his life forever. Before we get into this story, where are you watching from? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you enjoy Millionaire CEO stories like these, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next one. A quiet evening settled over the modest neighborhood as Mrs. Eleanor Whitman took her faithful support dog Max for their usual stroll. The sun was dipping low, casting long shadows that danced gently across the sidewalks lined with blooming flowers and sturdy trees. Eleanor's steps were steady but slow, aided by her sturdy cane in one hand and Max's leash in the other. Max, a loyal brown Labrador with a calm demeanor, had been Eleanor's steadfast companion for years. Her eyes, her balance, her comfort in a world that often felt overwhelming. As they moved along the familiar road, a sudden snap echoed through the quiet street. The leash, worn from years of faithful service, gave way. Max was free. In an instant, the dog bolted, his paws pounding the pavement as he dashed toward the street, unaware of the danger lurking just around the corner. Eleanor's heart leapt, her voice trembling as she screamed, "Max, no!" From nowhere, a silver car emerged, speeding recklessly down the road. The driver's eyes were wide with panic as the vehicle hurtled forward, its brakes screeching too late. The scene froze. A collision seemed inevitable. But then, like a flash of lightning, a figure appeared. A muscular man, a stranger to this peaceful neighborhood, sprung into action. With breathtaking speed, he lunged toward Max, arms outstretched and determination etched across his face. His body flew through the air, the very embodiment of courage and selflessness. In that heart-stopping moment, the man grasped Max, pulling the dog to safety mere inches from the roaring car. Time seemed to pause as Eleanor's scream turned to a gasp, the street holding its breath at the narrow escape. Eleanor's voice trembled with gratitude as she clutched Max tightly, her eyes moist with relief. "Thank you so much," she said earnestly, her hands reaching out to steady the man who had just risked his life for her dog. "I don't know what I would have done if anything had happened to Max. He's all I have now." The man shrugged modestly, a small smile playing on his lips. "It's nothing, ma'am. Just glad I was here in time." Eleanor looked up at him, curiosity mingling with appreciation. "What's your name?" He paused, then answered, "Marcus." "Well, Marcus, I'm Eleanor. Please, thank you again." Marcus's eyes shifted briefly to the worn leash dangling from Max's collar. "You should really replace that leash," he said gently. "It looks pretty old and frayed." Eleanor gave a tired smile. I know, but with these old eyes, it's hard to see well enough to shop for things like that. I've been using the same leash for years because I just never got around to replacing it." Marcus nodded understandingly. "I get it. Sometimes small things like that get overlooked. How about I take you to the convenience store down the road? We can get a new leash for Max." Eleanor hesitated. Then her face softened with gratitude. "That's very kind of you, Marcus. I'd appreciate that. Let's play a little game. If you've watched this far, drop a comment below telling me what you ate for breakfast today. And while you're at it, take just a few seconds to subscribe to my channel. It would mean the world to me. Thanks so much for your support." As they stepped onto the sidewalk, Max happily trotted between them. The evening air was crisp, carrying the scents of fresh grass and blooming flowers. Together, they started walking down the quiet street, Max trotting happily between them. The evening air was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of blooming jasmine and freshly cut grass. "So you just moved here?" Eleanor asked, glancing up at Marcus. "Yeah," he replied, wiping his hands on his pants as he spoke. "Started last month. I'm a plumber by trade. Got assigned to a few jobs around the neighborhood." "Plumber, huh? That's a good profession, always needed." Eleanor chuckled softly. "I used to have a handyman come around, but I'm not quite up to handling pipes and such myself." Marcus laughed. "It's definitely not glamorous, but it pays the bills." They walked along the sidewalk, passing rows of modest houses glowing warmly in the fading sunlight. "The weather's been quite nice lately, hasn't it?" Marcus remarked. "Not too hot, not too cold. Perfect for an evening walk." Eleanor nodded. "Yes, it's a blessing. Some days I wonder if I'll ever see the summer sun again. But these gentle evenings remind me there's still beauty to enjoy." Marcus glanced down at Max, who wagged his tail happily. "He's lucky to have you looking out for him." Eleanor smiled wistfully. And I'm lucky to have him. After my husband passed, Max became my world. He helps me more than I can say. That's a special bond, Marcus said quietly. They reached the convenience store nestled at the corner of the street, its windows bright with welcoming light. As they stepped inside, the bell chimed softly, and the cool air smelled faintly of fresh coffee and baked goods. "Let's find you that new leash," Marcus said, leading Eleanor toward the pet supplies aisle. Eleanor looked around appreciatively. "It's nice to have a store like this so close." Marcus nodded. "Yeah, it's one of the reasons I wanted to move here. Everything within walking distance makes life easier." They examined the leashes, bright colors, sturdy handles, reflective strips. Eleanor's fingers lingered on a soft brown leather one. "This looks nice," she said. "Good choice," Marcus agreed, smiling. "Comfortable for both you and Max." As Eleanor paid for the leash, Marcus helped her carry the bag back outside. The stars were beginning to twinkle in the sky, and the neighborhood was calm again. "Thank you, Marcus," Eleanor said softly, "for everything." "Anytime," he replied. "If you ever need a hand around the house, or a walk companion, just let me know." As Marcus offered to be a walk companion, Eleanor's face brightened. "I'm glad you offered," she said softly. "If you're not busy now, maybe you could have some sandwiches with me at the park? It's been a while since I spoke to someone outside the nursing home. Our conversation has been so refreshing. Please, maybe just 30 more minutes. The park is just close by, and we could buy some sandwiches here at this store." Marcus didn't expect this invitation. He had offered to be a walk companion out of polite habit, never imagining it would lead to this. Now, realizing the sincerity behind her words, he knew he needed to see it through. He smiled and said, "Yes, I'd like that." They chose sandwiches and some canned soda from the convenience store. Marcus carried the bag as they stepped outside into the fresh evening air. Max trotted happily between them. As they walked toward the nearby park, Eleanor steadied herself with her cane, and Marcus matched his pace to hers. Eleanor looked over at Marcus, her eyes soft with genuine gratitude. "I'm really grateful you agreed to come with me today, Marcus," she said quietly. "Even though we just met, you didn't hesitate. That means a lot to me." Marcus smiled, brushing a hand through his close-cropped hair. "It was my pleasure. You're great company. Sometimes it's nice to slow down and just talk. I'm glad you invited me." Eleanor's smile deepened, touched with something bittersweet. "You know, you remind me of my son." Marcus's eyes brightened with interest. "Oh, how so?" "Well," Eleanor began, "he was about your age when he left home. A kind, strong young man, much like you. I see that in the way you move, the way you speak. I miss him terribly." Marcus's expression softened. "Where is he now?" Eleanor sighed, looking down at Max, who lay curled quietly at her feet. "That's a long story." Marcus leaned forward slightly, resting his elbows on his knees. "Well, it's a good thing we've got 30 minutes or more," he said with a gentle smile. "If it's not too much to share, I'd be interested to hear the long story." Eleanor chuckled, the sound warm and light. "Sure, I'd be happy to." As the sun began its slow descent behind the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, they found a nicer spot in the park. A small covered shed with benches that offered shelter from the cool evening breeze. They gathered their food and moved, settling comfortably beneath the wooden roof. Max stretched and lay at Eleanor's feet, his eyes half closed in contentment. Eleanor took a slow breath, her eyes distant as she gathered the strength to speak. The gentle rustling of leaves and the faint chirping of birds surrounded them. Yet, in that moment, it felt like the world had hushed itself, just for her story. "My son's name is David," she began, her voice trembling slightly but resolute. "After my husband died, 4 years after our marriage, I had to raise David on my own. It was hard. I worked and slaved for years, sometimes 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Every penny I earned went into making sure David would have a better life than I did." She paused, eyes glistening in the fading light. "I saved every wage, every bonus, and started a small wine company from scratch. It was nothing fancy at first, but with hard work and determination, it grew. I remember the day I bought my first house, how proud I felt. Then my second. My company expanded, and David had everything I could provide, the best schools, paid vacations, every opportunity I dreamed of for him." Marcus listened, his expression softening, sensing the pride buried beneath her sorrow. As time went on, Eleanor continued. I started to get old and frail. My sight worsened, and I knew I couldn't run the company as I used to. David took over, and I was relieved. I thought the future was secure. She swallowed hard, voice catching. Then he met her. Marcus's brow furrowed, sensing the shift. She was the worst, Eleanor said bitterly. The very devil in disguise. I tried to love her, to welcome her as part of our family, but she had her own plans. Slowly, she started to pull David away from me. At first, I thought it was just a phase, young love, starting a new family. I told myself to be patient, to understand. I supported him. But she changed him, Eleanor said, her voice cracking. She took his love and loyalty and turned them into something cold, distant. I watched as he drifted further away. The calls became rare, the visits stopped. Eleanor's hands trembled slightly as she spoke. Then he married her, and I wasn't invited. Marcus's eyes widened in shock. He swallowed hard, struggling to keep his emotions in check. I was devastated, Eleanor whispered. I fell seriously ill soon after, spent 8 months in the hospital, fighting for my life, and he came to visit only once. Tears welled up in Marcus's eyes, but he blinked fiercely to hide them, not wanting Eleanor to see his pain. I made it out, she said, voice steady despite the hurt. But with no one to care for me, he registered me into a nursing home. Since then, I have known sadness and loneliness like I never imagined. He never visits anymore. I don't know where I went wrong. I love my son, but she took him away. Marcus reached out and gently squeezed Eleanor's hand, his heart aching. I'm so sorry, Eleanor. That's a heavy burden to carry. Eleanor nodded slowly, wiping away a stray tear. It's hard to understand. I gave him everything, and still I was cast aside. Marcus's voice was firm but kind. You're not alone now. Fate brought us together today, and I promise to be here for you. She looked up at him, a flicker of hope lighting her eyes amidst the pain. Thank you, Marcus. That means more than you know. They sat in silence for a while, the weight of her story lingering in the air. Max rested quietly at Eleanor's feet, as if sensing the depth of the moment. Marcus's heart was heavy, but he felt determined. This chance meeting was more than coincidence. It was a beginning. Let's play a small game. If you've watched this far, tell me the first color your eyes see. Drop it in the comment section below. And while you're at it, take just a few seconds to subscribe to my channel. Only those who aren't kind won't subscribe. After a moment of quiet, Eleanor gave a small, wry smile. Well, that's enough about me, she said gently, easing the heavy air between them. What about you? Tell me your story. Marcus looked out toward the darkening sky, gathering his thoughts. The last few minutes had opened a part of him he rarely shared, but something about Eleanor's kindness made him willing to try. I didn't have an easy childhood either, he began, voice steady but tinged with a quiet vulnerability. My mom, well, I didn't really know her much. She struggled with addiction, crack cocaine. When I was 11, she overdosed and died. It was sudden and left me alone. Eleanor's eyes widened in sympathy. Marcus glanced at her and nodded before continuing. I never knew who my father was, he said simply. So from a young age, I had to navigate this world by myself. There wasn't much family to turn to, no safety net. I had to learn fast how to survive. He paused, remembering those tough years, moving between homes, sometimes with friends, sometimes on his own. I wasn't always on the right path, he admitted. There were times I made mistakes, got into trouble, but somewhere along the way, I found a way out. I wanted more for myself. Eleanor reached out and squeezed his hand, silently encouraging him to go on. I got married about 3 years ago, Marcus said, a small smile touching his lips. My wife is the best thing that's happened to me. She keeps me grounded, gives me hope when things get tough. Eleanor's face softened. That's wonderful to hear. It sounds like you've come a long way. Marcus nodded. Yeah, it hasn't been easy, but I'm proud of how far I've come. Moving here, starting fresh, it's a chance to build something better. They sat together beneath the sheltering tree, the night wrapping around them gently. For a moment, their stories mingled. 2 lives marked by hardship, loss, but also resilience and hope. Eleanor smiled softly. Thank you for sharing that with me, Marcus. It means a lot. Marcus looked at her, grateful for her openness. Thank you for listening. It's not easy to talk about, but sometimes it helps. The stars twinkled above, casting a calm glow over the quiet park. Max shifted and rested his head on Eleanor's lap, both of them feeling a little less alone in the world. Eleanor smiled warmly at Marcus. "You mentioned you have a wife, and you speak so highly of her. I'd really like to meet her someday." Marcus nodded with a gentle smile. "I'd be happy to arrange that. I'll set a date for you both to meet soon." Eleanor chuckled softly. "Look at us, chatting away like old friends. I can't believe 30 minutes have passed already." Marcus glanced at his watch. "Yeah, time flies when you're having good company." Eleanor sighed. "It's getting quite late. We should head back home." Marcus pulled out his phone and called a cab for Eleanor. While waiting, he asked for the address of her nursing home to make sure the driver knew where to go. When the cab arrived, Marcus helped Eleanor into the vehicle and made sure Max was comfortable. "I promise to visit you as often as I can," Marcus said sincerely. "And my wife will come along too. We'll make sure you're not lonely." Eleanor smiled, feeling a warm sense of comfort she hadn't felt in a long time. "Thank you, Marcus. That means the world to me." The cab pulled away, carrying Eleanor and Max home. Marcus watched them go, hopeful that this new friendship would bring light to both their lives. As the weeks passed, Marcus kept to his word. He visited Mrs. Eleanor often, bringing warmth and companionship into her quiet days. Alongside him came his wife, whose gentle nature and kind smile quickly made her a favorite among the nursing home staff and residents alike. Together, they brought laughter and life into the halls, brightening Eleanor's world in ways she hadn't known were possible. Their visits became so frequent that the nursing home staff knew them well, greeting Marcus and his wife with familiar smiles and open arms. Eleanor looked forward to these moments, the shared stories, the simple joys, and the sense of belonging they brought. But after 4 months, tragedy struck. Eleanor woke up one morning with an excruciating pain in her right eye. The pain was sharp and unbearable, causing her to cry out in distress. The nursing home staff acted quickly and rushed her to the hospital. They knew the situation was serious. Shortly after, the nursing home called Marcus. "We thought to inform you immediately," the nurse said gently. "We knew you'd want to be there for her." Marcus's heart pounded. Without hesitation, he left everything behind and rushed to the hospital. The drive felt endless, and his mind was filled with worry and fear. When he arrived, the atmosphere was heavy and quiet. He was led to a small waiting room where a doctor soon came to speak with him. Marcus's hopes were high that Eleanor would be okay. But the news was devastating. The doctor explained that Eleanor had been diagnosed with eye cancer 2 years ago. At that time, she had refused treatment against the doctor's advice. She had told them she had no reason to live anymore, and perhaps it was finally time to join her late husband. Marcus felt a deep sadness wash over him. He wished he had known about this before. He wished he could have helped her more. However, the doctor continued. A few months ago, Eleanor had reached out to the hospital again. She had shown interest in the treatments they could offer. She told the medical team she had found a new reason to live. Marcus understood that new reason to live was him. The friendship and care he and his wife had given her. It had given her hope and strength she hadn't felt in a long time. Sadly, despite this renewed hope, the cancer had metastasized. It had spread to other parts of her body. The doctors said it was too late for treatment to be effective. Marcus felt tears welling in his eyes. He struggled to hold back the grief. The weight of loss pressed down on him. Shortly after, Marcus was allowed to see Eleanor one last time. She lay peacefully in the hospital bed, her face calm and serene. He took her hand gently, whispering, "You're not alone, Eleanor. I'm here." Eleanor opened her eyes weakly and smiled faintly. "Thank you, Marcus," she said softly. Moments later, Eleanor passed away quietly. Marcus stayed by her side, holding her hand until the very end. The loss was painful. But Marcus knew Eleanor had finally found peace, and she had not died alone. Marcus and his wife arranged a small, intimate funeral service for Eleanor. It was a quiet ceremony attended by close friends, the nursing home staff, and those who had come to know and care for her. Marcus spoke softly about Eleanor's strength, kindness, and the deep impact she had on their lives. Despite the invitations, Eleanor's son did not show up. His absence was felt deeply by those gathered, a silent reminder of the distance between them. The day after the funeral was Monday. Marcus and his wife were at home, settling back into their routine. They did not expect the visitor who came knocking early that morning. Marcus and his wife sat in their modest living room, the soft hum of the city outside contrasting sharply with the tension growing inside. The sharply dressed man who had just arrived introduced himself as Eleanor's lawyer. He carried a leather briefcase, which he carefully set on the coffee table between them. "Thank you for welcoming me," the lawyer began, his voice steady but serious. "I'm here to read the last will and testament of Mrs. Eleanor Whitman." Marcus exchanged a quick glance with his wife. The moment felt surreal, as if the events of the past months were leading up to something neither of them could have imagined. The lawyer opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick file. Before unfolding it, he said, "We're still expecting one more guest to join us. Please make yourselves comfortable." Minutes later, the doorbell rang sharply. Marcus rose and opened the door to reveal a tall man and a woman, Eleanor's son, David, and his wife. The air shifted instantly, and electric tension settled in the room. David's eyes flicked coldly around the space before settling on Marcus and his wife. "Why have you called this meeting? I have better things to do," he said with a biting edge, voice low but filled with accusation. His wife's lips curled into a sneer as she looked them over with barely concealed disdain. "Is this the man your mother tried to replace you with?" she said sarcastically. "What a joke this is." Marcus's brow furrowed in confusion and growing irritation. "I'm not sure what this has to do with us," he said calmly, trying to diffuse the tension. The lawyer stepped forward, raising a hand gently to quiet the rising voices. "Please. Mrs. Whitman requested that her will be read here in this house as a sign of honor and trust to Mr. Marcus and his wife." The room fell silent except for the faint ticking of a clock. The lawyer unfolded the document, clearing his throat before beginning. "All assets owned by Mrs. Eleanor Whitman, including her wine company, all properties and investments, valued at several $1,000,000, are to be inherited by Mr. Marcus and his wife." David's face was drained of color. His wife's eyes widened, and she clutched his arm tightly. "So, you mean to tell me that my mother was worth millions in assets, and she's giving everything to a man she met just months ago? Over her own son?" he said with a biting edge, voice low but filled with accusation. His wife's lips curled into a sneer as she looked them over with barely concealed disdain. "I can see why she left everything to you," she said sarcastically. "You two clearly live in a shoebox." The lawyer continued, "Mr. David Whitman is to vacate his current residence within 30 days and relinquish all control and shares in the company." A stunned silence filled the room, punctuated only by the sharp intake of breaths from David and his wife. "You can't be serious," David finally exploded. "This is madness. I'm her son. I'm the rightful heir." David's gaze hardened. "You think you just waltz in here and take what's rightfully mine? She's my mother." "Her wishes are clear," the lawyer replied evenly. "This is her final decision, and it must be respected." Marcus sat back, feeling overwhelmed yet oddly buoyed. The events of his life had suddenly taken a sharp and unexpected turn, all because he chose to save a woman's dog. The lawyer looked toward Marcus and his wife. "In addition, I have been appointed to assist and train you both in managing the wine company to ensure the business continues to prosper." Tears welled in Marcus's eyes as the weight of the moment settled on him. His quiet life had been transformed in an instant. David and his wife paced anxiously, their protests growing louder and more desperate. But the lawyer remained firm, his presence commanding respect. Marcus felt a swell of gratitude for Eleanor, a woman who had trusted him beyond measure. Her faith had changed everything. As the tension slowly ebbed, Marcus and his wife exchanged a look filled with hope and determination. From that day forward, their lives would never be the same, and all because he chose to save a stranger's dog. The end. Hello there. Did you learn anything, and did you enjoy this story? Do you think Mrs. Eleanor was harsh in her judgment? Let me know what you learnt in the comments and what you think about what Mrs. Eleanor did to her son, and if he and his wife deserved it. I hope you enjoyed this emotional millionaire CEO story. I know you won't want to miss the next one, so go ahead and subscribe now, and don't forget to turn on post notifications. See you in the next video.